The invitation arrived on the same day I caught them together. Life has a twisted sense of humor that way. I remember standing in my office, admiring the Mumbai skyline through floor-to-ceiling windows, when my phone buzzed with Maya's message. "Coming by your place tonight. Big news. I'm Penelope." And until that day, I thought I had it all figured out. Top architect at Wilson & Associates, engaged to the perfect guy, and blessed with a best friend who'd been by my side since college. Funny how quickly perfect can crumble. "Earth to penny." Bailey waved her hand in front of my face. "The contractor's waiting for your approval on the hotel blueprints." "Right, sorry." I shuffled through the papers, trying to focus. "Tell him I'll have it ready by 5. "You okay? You look like you've seen a ghost." I showed her Maya's message. "She never comes over unannounced. Something's up. Maybe she finally landed that event planning gig she's been chasing," Bailey suggested, perching on my desk. If only it had been that simple. I left work early that day, wanting to surprise Ronald. He'd been distant lately, claiming long hours at the engineering firm. I picked up his favorite butter chicken from that little place near Kalaba, thinking we could have dinner together before Maya arrived. The elevator ride to our apartment felt longer than usual. I fumbled with my keys, balancing the takeout bag, when I heard it. Laughter. Maya's distinctive giggle floating through our door. My stomach dropped. I inserted the key as quietly as possible, turned it slowly. The door creaked open to reveal scattered clothes leading to our bedroom. Her designer handbag lay carelessly tossed on our couch, the one we'd picked out together at Urban Ladder last month. "Ron, we shouldn't." Maya's voice drifted from the bedroom. I stood frozen, the takeout bag slipping from my grasp. It hit the floor with a thud. Scrambling sounds, rushed footsteps. Ronald appeared first, hastily buttoning his shirt. "Penny, you're home early." Maya emerged behind him, hair disheveled, lipstick smeared. She at least had the decency to look ashamed. "Penny, I can explain." "Explain?" My voice came out eerily calm. "Explain why my best friend and fiancé are half naked in my bedroom." "It's not what you think," Ronald started. "Really? Because I think it's exactly what it looks like." I picked up Maya's bag and threw it at her. "Get out, both of you. Please, let's talk about this," Maya pleaded, clutching her bag. "I came here to tell you something important. More important than sleeping with my fiancé." Ronald stepped forward. "Penny, baby, we made a mistake. It just happened." "Things don't just happen, Ron. You make choices." I pulled off my engagement ring and placed it on the coffee table. "Here's my choice." Maya burst into tears. "I'm getting married. To Mitchell. That's what I came to tell you. I want you to be my maid of honor." The laugh that escaped me must have sounded hysterical. "You're joking, right?" "I love Mitchell," she insisted. "This thing with Ron, it was a moment of weakness." "How long?" They exchanged glances. "How long?" 3 months, Ronald admitted. 3 months. While I was planning our wedding. While Maya was helping me choose flowers and venues. While she was getting engaged to Mitchell. "Penny." Maya reached for my hand. I jerked away. "Don't touch me. Don't call me. Don't text me. Just leave." They gathered their things in silence. At the door, Maya turned back. "The invitation will be in your mail. Please think about it. You're my best friend." "Were," I corrected. "I was your best friend." After they left, I sank to the floor, surrounded by the mess they'd made of my life. My phone buzzed again. Another message from Maya. "I know you hate me right now, but I need you there. You're the only one who understands my family situation. Please." I stared at the message, remembering all the times Maya had cried on my shoulder about her controlling parents, their suffocating expectations, how they'd pushed her toward suitable matches, dismissing her dreams of running her own event, planning business. The formal invitation arrived minutes later by email. "Maya Thompson and Mitchell Thompson request the honor of your presence." I clicked delete, but not before noting the date, venue, And every little detail. If Maya wanted me at her wedding so badly, maybe I'd give her exactly what she asked for, just not in the way she expected. My phone buzzed one final time. Bailey. Hey, you never sent those blueprints. Everything okay? I typed back, no, but it will be. Meet me for drinks. I need your help with something. The Mumbai traffic horns blared outside my window as I grabbed my keys and purse. I had 6 weeks until Maya's wedding. 6 weeks to plan my own kind of celebration. You want to do what? Bailey nearly choked on her mojito. We were at Café Mondegar, our usual spot for crisis talks and life-changing decisions. Be her maid of honor, I repeated, stirring my untouched drink. And make sure everything goes, not quite according to plan. That's insane. Bailey leaned forward, lowering her voice. You're talking about sabotaging your best friend's wedding. Ex-best friend, I corrected. And I'm not talking about anything dramatic. Just little things. Things that can't be traced back to me. The cafe buzzed with its usual evening crowd, but I felt oddly detached from the familiar chaos. A waiter dropped off another round of drinks we hadn't ordered. Compliments of the lady at the bar, he said. I turned to see Delilah, my neighbor, approaching our table. Thought you might need this after what happened. News travels fast in our building. How did you? Ronald was making quite a scene in the lobby, Delilah said, pulling up a chair. Something about you not answering his calls, and him needing to explain. There's nothing to explain, I muttered. So what's the plan? Delilah asked, surprising me. When I hesitated, she added, oh come on, I know that look. You're plotting something. I shared my ideas while they listened intently. Small disruptions, wrong flower deliveries, mixed up RSVPs, scheduling conflicts with vendors. It's brilliant and terrible at the same time, Bailey admitted. But why put yourself through being her maid of honor? Before I could answer, my phone rang. Maya's cousin Layla's name flashed on the screen. I put it on speaker. Penny, thank God you picked up. Layla's voice crackled. Maya's having a breakdown. Aunt and uncle are threatening to call off their financial support for the wedding unless she follows their exact plans. They're trying to turn it into this massive society event. And this concerns me because you're the only one who knows how to handle them. Remember last year when you convinced them to let Maya take that event planning course? I remembered. I'd spent hours preparing a presentation showing how event planning could complement their family's jewelry business. Maya had been so grateful. Please, Layla continued. She needs you. The wedding planning meeting is tomorrow at the Taj. Just come, for old time's sake. I muted the call and looked at Bailey and Delilah. This could be my way in. Or your way to get hurt again, Bailey warned. I unmuted. What time? The next day, I walked into the Taj's conference room to find Maya surrounded by wedding catalogs, her mother dictating choices while her father discussed costs with Mitchell's parents. Maya looked up, relief flooding her face. Penny, you came. I'm here for Layla, I lied, taking a seat far from Maya. Maya's mother immediately pounced. Penelope, perfect timing. Tell Maya this color scheme won't work. She wants burgundy and gold, but I say navy and silver is more sophisticated. Actually, I said sweetly, burgundy and gold would be stunning for a winter wedding. Very traditional, yet modern. I can connect you with some excellent decorators. Maya shot me a grateful look. Her mother hesitated, then nodded reluctantly. See, Maya said. This is why I need Penny as my maid of honor. She understands both tradition and trends. I spent the next hour subtly suggesting vendors I knew were notoriously unreliable, recommending a caterer famous for mixing up orders, and proposing a makeup artist known for running late. As the meeting wrapped up, Maya caught my arm. Thank you. I know this must be hard for you. I pulled away. You have no idea. Penny, about Ronald. Don't. I turned to face her. You want me as your maid of honor? Fine, but we're not friends. We're not having heart-to-hearts. This is me doing my duty, nothing more. Her face fell. I understand, but there's something you should know about Ronald. Meeting in 5 minutes. Bailey's voice cut through the tension. She stood in the doorway, my saving grace. Sorry, Maya, but I need to steal Penny for work. Outside, Bailey grabbed my arm. You okay? No, I admitted. But I will be. Did you make those calls? Yup, 3 vendors already agreed to have scheduling conflicts the week of the wedding. And Delilah's working on the flower shop connection. I nodded, pulling out my phone to check my calendar. A notification popped up, an old photo from my gallery. Maya and me at her parents' Diwali party last year, her head on my shoulder as we shared secrets and dreams. For a moment, my resolve wavered. Then I remembered the sound of her laughter in my apartment, the sight of scattered clothes leading to my bedroom, and steeled myself again. Ready for phase 2? Bailey asked. I deleted the photo. Ready. The hotel's elaborate chandelier cast dancing shadows across the marble floor as we left, each step taking me further down a path I never thought I'd walk. But then again, neither did Maya when she betrayed me. The florist just called, I announced, walking into Maya's bridal fitting. They accidentally ordered pink roses instead of burgundy. They can't get the right color in time. Maya's face crumpled as she stood on the pedestal, wedding dress half-pinned. But the whole color scheme. I'm sure we can work something out, her mother said, examining the dress hem. Pink is more traditional anyway. I hid my smile, knowing the florist, carefully selected and prompted by Delilah, had never actually placed the original order. At least the dress fits perfectly, I offered, watching Maya twist to see herself in the mirror. Actually, the seamstress cleared her throat. There seems to be an issue with the measurements I received. The bust needs significant alterations. Another small victory. Bailey had made sure the measurements got accidentally switched. Maya's phone buzzed. Her face paled as she read the message. The caterer just canceled. Something about double booking. I can help find a replacement, I volunteered innocently. Though most good ones are booked months in advance. This is a disaster, Maya whispered, sinking onto a nearby chair, careful not to wrinkle her dress. Everything's falling apart. For a moment, watching her fight back tears, I felt a twinge of guilt. Then my phone lit up with a text from Ronald. Miss you. Maya was a mistake. Can we talk? The guilt evaporated. Don't worry, I said, pocketing my phone. I'll fix everything. Later that evening, I met Joanna, our mutual friend, for coffee at Starbucks. She stirred her latte thoughtfully after I filled her in on the wedding chaos. You know why Maya's really going through with this wedding, right? She asked. Because she's a manipulative. Because her parents threatened to cut her off completely if she didn't marry Mitchell. Joanna leaned forward. They found out about her secret event planning business. I froze mid-sip. What business? The one she started 3 months ago, right around the time Joanna trailed off meaningfully. The timeline clicked. 3 months ago, when she started seeing Ronald. What does one have to do with the other? Think about it, Penny. Who's the best architectural engineer in Mumbai for event spaces? My coffee turned bitter in my mouth. Ronald. She needed his help with venue assessments for her business plan. Things got complicated. That doesn't excuse. No, it doesn't. Joanna agreed. But maybe it explains some things. My phone rang, interrupting us. Unknown number. Hello. Is this Penelope? A man's voice, unfamiliar. I thought you should know something about Ronald Mason. He's been meeting with Maya regularly, even after your breakup. Who is this? The line went dead. Joanna raised an eyebrow. Everything okay? Fine, I lied, gathering my things. I need to go. I walked home through Mumbai's busy streets, my mind racing. Outside my building, I spotted Layla waiting. Before you say anything, she rushed out. I need to show you something. She pulled out her phone, displaying a series of text messages between Maya and Ronald. Maya, we need to tell her the truth. Ronald, not yet. The business plan isn't ready. Maya, I hate lying to her. Ronald, just a few more weeks. Trust me. When were these from? I demanded. Last week, Layla said quietly. There's more going on than you know, Penny. I pushed past her into the building, riding the elevator to my floor in a daze. Bailey was waiting outside my apartment. The makeup artist agreed to show up 2 hours late, she announced triumphantly. And I convinced the DJ to accidentally play the wrong first dance song. Maybe we should stop, I said. What? Why? I told her about Joanna's revelation and the mysterious call. So what? Bailey exclaimed. That makes it worse. She used Ronald for business connections. I don't know what to think anymore. Think about how you felt walking into your apartment that day, Bailey reminded me. Think about them lying to you for months. My phone buzzed again. Maya, can we meet? There's something you need to know about Ronald. Don't do it, Bailey warned, reading over my shoulder. I typed back, busy with wedding preparations. The replacement caterer needs an answer tomorrow. Maya, please, it's important. I turned off my phone and looked at Bailey. You're right, we stick to the plan. But that night, lying in bed, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was missing something crucial. The mysterious caller, the text messages, Maya's desperation to talk to me about Ronald. My laptop chimed with an email notification. Anonymous sender. Subject line. The truth about Ronald Mason. My cursor hovered over the email. Part of me wanted to delete it unopened, to stay focused on my revenge, but a larger part needed to know. I clicked. The attachment opened to reveal a business proposal. Client, Maya Thompson. Consultant, Ronald Mason. Date, 3 months ago. And there, in black and white, was a plan that would change everything I thought I knew about their betrayal. The business proposal stared back at me from my laptop screen. Mumbai Dreams, architectural event spaces, a joint venture between Maya and Ronald. With my name listed as potential lead architect, my phone rang. Maya again. What is this? I demanded, answering. Can we meet, please? I'll explain everything. 20 minutes later, we sat in an all-night cafe, the same one where we'd celebrated her engagement to Mitchell months ago. Start talking, I said. Maya wrapped her hands around her coffee cup. I wanted to tell you from the beginning. The business was supposed to be for all 3 of us. So naturally, you slept with my fiancé? That wasn't, she closed her eyes. That day you found us. We weren't. It wasn't what it looked like. Really? Because it looked pretty clear to me. Ronald was helping me button up my blouse because I'd spilled coffee on it. We were reviewing venue blueprints when I knocked over my cup. Nothing happened between us, Penny, ever. I laughed bitterly. You expect me to believe that? Check your email again. There should be security footage from your building's lobby that day. I pulled out my phone, found another anonymous email. The video showed Maya entering my building, coffee in hand, fully dressed. 20 minutes later, the footage showed her leaving, wearing different clothes, Ronald behind her. Why didn't you tell me this before? Because of this. Maya slid her phone across the table. Text messages from her father. Either you marry Mitchell and forget this ridiculous business idea, or you're cut off. No more support, no inheritance, nothing. What does that have to do with? Ronald suggested we keep the business plan secret until after my wedding. He thought if we could show my parents a successful venture, they'd accept it. The clothes thing. We were trying to make it look like we'd been doing something else if anyone saw us meeting. That's the stupidest plan I've ever heard. I know. Maya's voice cracked. But I was desperate. And then you found us, and everything exploded. And my parents used the scandal to force the wedding timeline. My phone buzzed. Bailey. The DJ confirmed the wrong playlist. You still want to go through with it? I stared at the message, then at Maya. Why didn't Ronald tell me the truth? He tried. But you blocked his number, changed your locks, threatened legal action. The waiter arrived with fresh coffee, giving me a moment to process. Prove it, I finally said. Prove nothing happened between you two. Maya pulled out a USB drive. Here's every email, every message, every business document. Check the timestamps, the dates. And this? She handed me an envelope. Photos from the security camera in Ronald's office during every meeting. We were never alone together. Joanna was always there. Joanna knew. She was our witness, for propriety. She tried to tell you. My phone buzzed again. Delilah. Florist confirmed the wrong flowers. No turning back now. Why didn't you just tell me about the business from the start? I asked. Because you were so excited about the wedding. Every time I tried to bring up business, you'd start talking about venues and dresses. I thought I could have both, the business and your happiness. And Mitchell, does he know? Maya's face fell. No, my parents threatened to tell him about the affair if I didn't go through with the wedding. His family is very traditional. The scandal would destroy him. The cafe's fluorescent lights flickered, casting harsh shadows across Maya's face. She looked exhausted, defeated. My phone lit up. Anonymous. Ask her about the ring. What ring? I asked. Maya reached into her bag, pulled out a small box. Inside was my engagement ring. Ronald gave this to me to return to you, along with this. She handed me a letter. Ronald's handwriting. Penny. I should have told you everything from the start. The business plan was meant to be your wedding gift, a chance for you and Maya to build something amazing together while I handled the engineering. I was an idiot to think secrecy was the answer. I've lost you, and I'll regret that forever. But please don't punish Maya for my mistakes. R. The cafe door chimed. Mitchell walked in, spotted us. Maya, what are you doing here so late? Maya's eyes widened in panic. I saw the fear there, fear of losing everything, just like I had felt. Wedding emergency, I heard myself say. Vendor issues, I was just helping Maya sort them out. Mitchell smiled. Good thing she has you, Penny. Maya's been so stressed about everything going perfectly. If he only knew how imperfect I'd planned to make it. My phone buzzed one final time. Bailey. Everything's set for tomorrow's disasters. Give the word, and it all falls apart. I looked at Maya, saw the girl who'd been my best friend since college, who'd supported every dream I'd ever had. Then I looked at my phone and made a decision that would change everything. Actually, I said, I need to make some calls. I think there's been a mix-up with the vendors. You're doing what? Bailey's voice echoed through my apartment the next morning, after everything we planned. I'm fixing it, I said, dialing another vendor. Yes, hello? This is Penelope, regarding the Thompson wedding. There's been a mistake with the flower order. Have you lost your mind? Bailey snatched my phone. They played you. That whole coffee shop drama was probably staged. You didn't see her face when Mitchell walked in. I grabbed my phone back. She's trapped Bailey, just like I was trapped in my perfect wedding plans, while ignoring what Maya really needed. Oh, so now you're Team Maya. The doorbell rang. Delilah burst in, waving her phone. The florist's already ordered the wrong flowers. We can't undo that. Watch me. I turned back to my phone. Yes, I'll pay the rush fee for the burgundy roses, whatever it takes. Penny. Bailey's voice softened. Are you sure about this? Before I could answer, another knock. Maya's mother stood in my doorway, looking severe in her designer suit. Penelope, we need to talk. She strode in, eyeing Bailey and Delilah. Privately, they took the hint and left, Bailey shooting me a worried look. I know what you're doing, Maya's mother said, once we were alone. My heart stopped. Trying to help Maya with this ridiculous business venture. She pulled out a chair, sat down primly. It stops now. With all due respect, my daughter will marry Mitchell. She will take her place in society. This fantasy about event planning needs to end. Maybe if you'd supported her dreams from the start. Dreams don't pay bills, Penelope. Dreams don't maintain social standing. She leaned forward. You're her maid of honor. Act like one. Stop encouraging her. Or what? Or I'll tell Mitchell everything. About Ronald. About the secret meetings. About this business nonsense. His family will call off the wedding immediately. My phone buzzed. Maya, Mom's on her way to you. Don't let her intimidate you. I have a plan. Another text followed immediately. Ronald, whatever Maya's planning, I'm in. We all are. Well, Maya's mother demanded, what's it gonna be? I thought about Maya's face in the cafe, about the business proposal with my name on it, about all the dreams we'd shared over the years. Actually, I smiled, I have a better idea. 2 hours later, I stood in the wedding venue's conference room. Maya, Mitchell, Ronald, Bailey, Delilah, and both sets of parents sat around the table. Thank you all for coming, I began. As maid of honor, I've been closely involved in the wedding planning. But there's something everyone needs to know. Maya's mother started to stand. I held up my hand. Mitchell, Maya has been working on something amazing. A business that could revolutionize Mumbai's event industry. And she needs your help. Mitchell looked confused. What business? I nodded to Ronald, who distributed copies of the business proposal. Mumbai Dreams, I continued, will combine Maya's event planning expertise with top-tier architectural design. We already have potential clients lined up. We, Mitchell asked. Maya, Ronald, and me. As equal partners, Ronald handling engineering, me handling architecture, and Maya bringing it all together with her event planning skills. Maya's father scoffed. This is absurd. Actually, Mitchell interrupted, studying the proposal. This is brilliant. The profit projections, the market analysis. Maya, did you do all this? Maya nodded, tears in her eyes. Why didn't you tell me? Because, I cut in. Some people thought maintaining appearances was more important than supporting dreams. Maya's mother stood up. This meeting is over. Sit down, Auntie, Mitchell said firmly. Everyone stared. He never spoke to elders that way. Maya, is this what you want? More than anything, she whispered. Then I'm in, he smiled. Not just as your husband, but as an investor. My family's construction business could benefit from this partnership. Mitchell, his father warned. No, Dad. Look at these numbers. This isn't just some dream. This is a solid business opportunity. Maya's mother laughed bitterly. And I suppose you'll forgive the affair with Ronald too. There was no affair, I said. I have proof, security footage, witnesses, everything. The only scandal here is how far some people would go to control their children's lives. The room erupted in arguments and explanations. Through it all, Maya caught my eye and mouthed, "Thank you." My phone buzzed one last time. An email from the anonymous sender. You did the right thing. Check attachment. It was a photo from 5 years ago. Maya and me on our first day of college, bright-eyed and full of dreams. Below it was a message. Sometimes revenge isn't about destroying someone's special day. Sometimes it's about helping them find their way back to who they were meant to be. I looked up to see Maya standing beside me, holding out her hand. Partners, she asked. I took her hand. Partners. The wedding was still 2 days away, but somehow I knew everything would work out exactly as it was supposed to. The wedding rehearsal was in full swing when everything started unraveling again. Maya's mother stood up during the dinner, champagne glass in hand. I'd like to make an announcement, she declared, her voice carrying across the decorated hall. The wedding is being postponed. Maya dropped her fork. What? Given recent developments, her mother continued, we feel it's best to take some time to reassess. Mitchell's father nodded in agreement. A business venture is one thing, but this unconventional arrangement, unconventional. Mitchell stood up. You mean successful? We've already got 3 clients lined up. I watched Maya's hands tremble as she reached for her water glass. After everything we'd fixed, it was falling apart again. Excuse me, I said, standing. May I say something? Penny, don't, Maya whispered. But I was already walking to the center of the room. You all know me as Maya's maid of honor, but I'm also her business partner, and I have something to show you. I nodded to Bailey, who dimmed the lights. Ronald, right on cue, started the projector. This is our first project, I announced, as images filled the screen. The Kumar wedding venue. Traditional architecture meets modern design. Maya's vision, my blueprints, Ronald's engineering, Mitchell's construction expertise. The guests murmured, studying the stunning 3D renderings. We're already booked for the next 6 months, I continued. Top families in Mumbai. People who understand that tradition and innovation can coexist. Maya's mother scoffed, and you expect us to believe? Actually, a voice called from the back. I can vouch for their work. Everyone turned. Joanna stepped forward with an elderly man in an expensive suit. Uncle Raj, Maya's father, stood up. What are you doing here? Supporting my grandniece's dreams, he replied. My daughter's wedding will be Mumbai Dream's first official event. Already paid the deposit. The room erupted in whispers. Uncle Raj was a leading industrialist in Mumbai. His approval meant everything in their social circle. But, Maya's mother stammered. The real question, Uncle Raj continued, is why you're so determined to stop this. Is it because you're afraid Maya will succeed where you failed? The room fell silent. Maya's mother's face went pale. What's he talking about? Maya asked. Your mother, Uncle Raj said gently, once had dreams of starting her own business too. But our family, we weren't as supportive then as we should have been. Mom? Maya turned to her mother, who was now sitting, tears in her eyes. I wanted to open a boutique, she whispered, design my own clothing line. But my parents, they said it wasn't proper. I watched as Maya crossed the room, kneeling beside her mother's chair. Why didn't you tell me? Because I didn't want you to feel the pain I felt. Her mother touched Maya's cheek. But I ended up causing it anyway, didn't I? Mitchell cleared his throat. Mrs. Thompson, what if the wedding became Mumbai Dream's showcase event? What do you mean? Maya asked. Let's make our wedding the perfect blend of tradition and innovation. Show everyone what this company can do. Ronald stepped forward. The venue's perfect for it. We could… No. Maya's mother stood up. Everyone froze. Then, surprisingly, she smiled. Not without a proper business plan. If we're doing this, we're doing it right. The tension in the room broke. People laughed, cheered, started talking all at once about ideas and possibilities. I felt a tap on my shoulder. Ronald, can we talk? He asked quietly. We stepped out onto the venue's balcony, Mumbai's lights twinkling below. I'm sorry, he said, for not telling you the truth from the start. I'm sorry, too, for not letting you explain. Where does this leave us? I thought about the past few months, about betrayal and revenge, about understanding and forgiveness. It leaves us as business partners, I said finally. Nothing more. He nodded, looking sad but relieved. I can live with that. Back inside, Maya was hugging her mother, both of them crying and laughing at the same time. Mitchell was deep in discussion with Uncle Raj about construction details. Bailey and Delilah were already sketching decoration ideas on napkins. My phone buzzed one last time. Anonymous. Sometimes the best revenge is living well. I smiled, finally understanding who had been sending those messages all along. Across the room, Joanna winked at me. Maya broke away from her mother and rushed over. Penny, Mom wants to invest in Mumbai Dreams. Can you believe it? Actually, I grinned, I can. But first, we have a wedding to plan. A real one this time. The perfect showcase, she agreed, then hesitated. You know I really am sorry, right? For everything. I hugged her. I know. Now let's show Mumbai what happens when women support each other instead of tearing each other down. The rehearsal dinner turned into an impromptu business meeting, with ideas and plans flowing as freely as the champagne. Looking around, I realized that sometimes the best endings aren't about getting even. They're about getting better. The morning of Maya's wedding arrived with unexpected chaos. Not the chaos I'd originally planned, but the kind that comes with launching a business and hosting a wedding simultaneously. The presentation screens aren't syncing. Bailey rushed into the bridal suite, tablet in hand. We can't showcase the 3D venue tours. Maya, halfway through her makeup, remained surprisingly calm. Penny will handle it, right? I was already dialing Ronald. Meet me at the control room. Bring your laptop. The venue buzzed with activity. Wedding guests mingling with potential clients. Society photographers capturing every detail. Our first major event as Mumbai Dreams had to be perfect. There you are, Ronald called from the control room doorway. I think I know what's wrong. We worked side by side, fixing the technical issues while trying to ignore our complicated history. Finally, the screens flickered to life, displaying our architectural renderings in stunning detail. Just like college, Ronald smiled. Remember that final project we saved 10 minutes before presentation? This isn't college, I reminded him. And we're not, I know, he cut in. Business partners only, I remember. A commotion outside drew our attention. Maya's mother was arguing with the catering staff. These aren't the appetizers we ordered, she exclaimed. How will this look to Uncle Raj's associates? I rushed over. Actually, these are better. Trust me. She hesitated, then tried one. Her eyes widened. This is amazing. Fusion cuisine, I explained. Traditional flavors with modern presentation. Maya's idea. Speaking of Maya, she lowered her voice. She's asking for you. Something about cold feet. I found Maya pacing in the bridal suite, looking stunning in her designer lehenga. I can't do this, she blurted out. The wedding. The business launch. It's too much. Hey, I grabbed her shoulders. Remember when we were 22 and you talked me through my first client presentation? She nodded. What did you tell me then? That you were born for this, she whispered. That fear means you're about to do something amazing. Exactly. And look at everything we've built in just 2 months. Mumbai Dreams is already trending on social media. But what if? A knock interrupted us. Mitchell poked his head in. I know it's bad luck, he said, but I need to show you something. We followed him to the main hall. The screens were now showing a live feed of guests arriving, interspersed with our portfolio. Business cards were being exchanged. People were signing up for consultations. 3 more bookings already, Mitchell beamed. Uncle Raj's friends are impressed. Maya's eyes filled with tears. Really? Really? He took her hand. And I've never been more sure about anything in my life. I slipped away, giving them their moment. Outside, I found Joanna directing photographers. You can stop sending anonymous messages now, I told her. Mission accomplished. She laughed. I have no idea what you're talking about, but look. She pointed to where Maya's mother was proudly showing Uncle Raj's wife their business portfolio. Some dreams just need a little push. The ceremony began as the sun set. I stood beside Maya, watching her and Mitchell exchange vows. Their personal touches blended seamlessly with tradition, just like our business model. During the reception, I clinked my glass for the maid of honor speech. The room quieted. When Maya asked me to be her maid of honor, I had different plans. Nervous laughter from those who knew the truth. But life has a funny way of showing us what really matters. Today isn't just about a wedding. It's about having the courage to chase your dreams, even when the people you love don't understand them yet. I raised my glass to Maya and Mitchell, who proved that the best partnerships are built on trust, understanding, and the willingness to take risks together. And to Mumbai Dreams, where we make those kinds of partnerships possible for others. The crowd applauded. Maya hugged me, whispering, "Thank you for not going through with your revenge. Thank you for giving me something better to believe in." Later, as the party wound down, Bailey found me by the dessert table. "So," she said, "was it worth it? Giving up your revenge plot?" I watched Maya dance with her mother, both laughing as Mitchell tried to keep up. I saw Ronald showing venue designs to interested clients. Delilah was already booking appointments for next month. You know what's better than revenge? I asked. Success. Real, meaningful success. My phone buzzed. A message from an actually anonymous number this time. Interested in discussing Mumbai Dreams expansion plans. Let's meet next week. I showed Bailey the message. Want to help me plan something bigger than revenge? Always. She grinned. But this time, let's skip the sabotage. The night ended with fireworks, Maya's surprise gift to Mitchell. As they exploded overhead, painting the Mumbai sky in brilliant colors, I realized something. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about destroying someone's happiness. Sometimes it's about building something so beautiful that the past becomes nothing more than a foundation for the future. The morning sun streamed through the windows of Mumbai Dream's new office as I pinned the last blueprint to the presentation board. Our biggest project yet, transforming an old heritage building into a modern event space while preserving its historical charm. Ready? Maya breezed in, carrying 2 cups of coffee. Uncle Raj is bringing the investors in 10 minutes. Almost. I adjusted the blueprint. Where's Ronald? Running final structural calculations. Mitchell's with him. The office buzzed with energy. In the main area, Bailey directed our growing team of designers, while Delilah coordinated with vendors. Through the glass walls, I could see Joanna giving a tour to potential clients. Remember when this was all just revenge plots and wedding drama? Maya handed me my coffee. Feels like a different lifetime. Penny? Ronald appeared in the doorway, looking nervous. Can we talk before the presentation? Maya squeezed my arm and left us alone. I'm leaving the company, he said. My heart stopped. What? Not completely. I'll still consult, but I got an offer to head an engineering firm in Dubai. Oh, I sat down, processing. When? Next month. I wanted to tell you first, because… He hesitated. Because you deserve to know that I'm not running away. I'm moving forward, just like you did. Before I could respond, Uncle Raj's booming voice filled the office. Where are my favorite entrepreneurs? The presentation went perfectly. Our vision for the heritage building impressed even the most skeptical investors. As they filed out, Maya's mother pulled me aside. I was wrong about you, she said, about everything. We were all wrong about something, I replied. She smiled. Maya told me you're looking at that old property in Colaba for expansion. Yes, but the asking price is… Consider it handled. She handed me a business card. My investment group is interested. Across the office, I saw Ronald showing Mitchell some final calculations before heading out. Our eyes met briefly. No pain, no regret, just mutual respect and understanding. Penny, Bailey called. The bride from yesterday's wedding is here, says she has a referral. The day flew by in a whirlwind of meetings, designs, and decisions. As evening fell, I found myself alone in my office, looking at the city lights. Thought I'd find you here, Maya said, entering with a bottle of wine and 2 glasses. We never properly celebrated. Celebrated what? Everything. The company's success. Ronald moving on. You finally taking down that revenge planning board from your apartment, I laughed. You knew about that. Please, I'm your best friend. I know everything. She poured the wine, including the fact that you've been avoiding dating because you're afraid of getting hurt again. Maya. The new client? The one coming tomorrow. His brother is single. Just saying. Focus on the business, matchmaker. Speaking of business, she pulled out her tablet. Remember that idea we had in college? The one about destination weddings? The mountain resort concept? What if we made it real? I've been looking at properties in Shimla. We spent the next hour dreaming and planning, just like we used to. But this time, it wasn't just dreams. We had the power to make them reality. My phone buzzed, a message from Joanna. Drinks, the whole team's heading to Mondegar. We should go, Maya said. Celebrate with everyone. At the cafe, surrounded by our team, now more like family, I watched Maya show Bailey the Shimla properties, while Mitchell and Delilah debated color schemes. Even Ronald had joined us one last time, sharing Dubai architecture photos with the designers. Speech, someone called out. I stood, raising my glass. To new beginnings, to dreams that become reality, and to learning that sometimes the best revenge is building something so amazing that the past becomes irrelevant. To Mumbai dreams, they cheered. Later, walking home through the familiar streets, I stopped at the spot where I'd once plotted my revenge. The city felt different now, full of possibility rather than pain. My phone buzzed, an email from a potential client. Saw your heritage building presentation. interested in discussing my property in Goa. I smiled, already imagining the possibilities. Revenge had brought me here, but passion and purpose would take me forward. The future wasn't about getting even. It was about getting better, dream by dream, building by building, story by story. And this was just the beginning. I pulled out my phone and typed a message to Maya. About that Shimla project, I have some ideas. Because the best stories don't end with revenge. They end with creation, with growth, with transformation. They end with dreams coming true.
My name is Sally Johnson. I am 28 years old and work in sales for medical devices. This is the story of betrayal, redemption, and discovering the true meaning of family that I experienced. Winters in Montana were wrapped in severe cold. I stood by the window of the local community center, watching the snowflakes dance in the harsh February wind. For the past 5 years, I had spent my weekends here, volunteering to help veterans readjust to civilian life. Since my biological father was a Marine, this mission was deeply rooted in my heart. My father, Andrew Johnson, served in the Marines for 30 years. He was a strict military man but gentle with the family, especially passionate about educating me. Keeping records is just as important as living. That's what my father would say as he taught me the habit of meticulously recording daily expenses and income. He loved my mother deeply, but he was always concerned about money management. My mother, Katrina Johnson, was an excellent elementary school teacher admired by her students, but she was a bit naive when it came to handling finances. Because of this, my father managed all aspects of the household finances. He taught me the value of investing in tangible assets. Gold never lies. He would often say, "In uncertain times, trust what you can see with your own eyes and hold with your own hands. Currency values fluctuate based on the government's decisions, but gold holds its worth through any era." His study was neatly lined with gold coins he had steadily collected each month. When he was diagnosed with cancer, he shared his final wisdom with me. "Sally, see for yourself, verify with your own hands, and live honestly." His voice carried profound love. He passed away when I was 16 years old. My mother sank into deep grief after his death. Santos Brown appeared a year after my father's death. He was charming, a successful real estate professional, and seemed like the perfect gentleman at first glance. He approached my mother along with his son, Daniel. Daniel was 10 years older than me. Aspiring to be an entrepreneur, Daniel was always chasing the next big opportunity. There was something off about both of them from the start, but I couldn't pinpoint exactly what it was. I remember the first time Santos and Daniel came to our house for dinner. I was 17, and still drowning in the deep sorrow of my father's death. But they disregarded that and continued to talk endlessly and cheerfully about themselves. Daniel kept discussing his latest business venture. Meanwhile, Santos spun tales about investing in Daniel's business ideas. But none of it seemed specific enough, and it felt far too risky. "Mom, let's take a little more time to think this through," I pleaded desperately. "I believe the investments Santos is suggesting are extremely dangerous." Dad wouldn't. But Santos cut me off. "Sally, you're too young. You shouldn't interfere with decisions made by adults." His voice was gentle, but there was an underlying intimidation. My mother saw my concerns as youthful overreaction. "Sally, you're just like your father, but we need a new life." She spoke to me as if giving advice. "Your daughter has quite the fiery personality." I overheard Santos saying to my mother late that night in the kitchen, "Perhaps she needs professional help to overcome her grief." It was a voice dripping with false concern. This was the first warning sign I felt about Santos. A year and a half after my father's death, they decided to get married. I strongly opposed my mother's decision. "It's only been 6 months since you met him. You need more time." But Santos skillfully subdued me with his words. "Sally, are you truly thinking about your mother's happiness?" He spoke in a gentle, persuasive tone. "Sure, your father was a wonderful man, but Katrina still has a life ahead of her. She deserves to find new happiness." But when I tried to argue, Santos continued, "I've also lost my wife. I know that pain well. That's why I want us to support each other. Wouldn't it be good for you too, Sally, to have a new family?" My mother strongly agreed with Santos. "Sally, please try to understand how I feel." My opposition only seemed to hurt my mother and bring her closer to Santos. Gradually, my relationship with my mother deteriorated, especially regarding how to handle the assets my father had left behind. "Why do we have to sell the gold coins Dad collected?" I protested. "Santos says now is the right time for real estate investments," my mother replied. "You might not understand yet because you're too young, but we need to prepare for our new life." My mother began to see my opposition as nothing more than childish stubbornness. I could only silently watch as the things my father cherished were sold off one by one. Santos cleverly drove a wedge between me and my mother. "Your mother is very hurt by your defiant attitude, Sally," he said. "If this continues, it could affect her health." Bit by bit, I found myself alienated from the family. "Sally is just a difficult child," Santos kept telling my mother. "She's not giving us a chance." Perhaps my mother wanted this marriage to succeed at all costs to fill the void left by my father's death. And so, she started to believe Santos's words. I felt like I no longer had a place in the house, so I immersed myself in my studies and decided to leave home by earning a scholarship. In the spring of my senior year of high school, I received an acceptance letter from Boston University with a scholarship. With my father's educational insurance, I would be able to cover the tuition until graduation. Tears of joy streamed down my cheeks as I held the acceptance letter in my hands. That night, during a family meeting, Santos made an unexpected suggestion. "Boston is too far. If you attend a state university, you can commute from home, and the tuition is cheaper," he said, spreading out a thick set of documents. "Besides, Thomas's new IT startup needs young talent like you. You can be an immediate asset without needing to go to college." My mother looked anxious, but her father wanted her to receive a good education. "Katrina," Santos interrupted her. "I'm the one taking care of the family now. We have to think about Sally's future. What if something happens when she's all the way in Boston?" At that moment, Thomas chimed in. "That's right. If you join my company, you could take part as a senior executive. There's no need to waste 4 years in college." But I didn't waver in my decision. My father dreamed of me following my own path. I want to make that dream a reality. Santos's expression twisted for a moment. "Well, if you end up regretting it, I won't be responsible." Later, I found out that Santos feared my departure would weaken his influence over my mother. He even tried to interfere with my job after graduation. During my senior year of college, I secured a job offer from a major medical device company. It was a sales position, but there was potential to move into product development in the future. When I returned home for Thanksgiving break, Santos voiced his opinion again. "A sales position in medical devices?" He poured himself a glass of expensive wine as he spoke. "Why would you go to college just to become a mere salesperson? Thomas's new medical venture could offer you a role as Chief Technology Officer." "But I'm interested in this job," I replied. "Interested?" Santos laughed mockingly. "You graduated from Boston University with top grades and inherited your father's assets, yet you're willing to waste all that." My mother watched anxiously. "Sales in medical devices is by no means an easy job," I said calmly but firmly. "There are times when I'll be present in operating rooms. I'll need to build trust with the doctors. And most importantly, this job involves the lives of patients." "Huh?" Santos scoffed. "Justifying yourself like that is your choice, but you lack ambition. At this rate, you'll live a half-baked life forever." At the time, I didn't realize it, But this was one of his typical manipulative tactics. He aimed to undermine my confidence and place me under his and Thomas's control. Ironically, it was his attitude that solidified my resolve. Investing in gold was my way of honoring my father's teachings and maintaining a tangible connection to him. Every year, I converted a portion of my savings into gold bars and stored them in the safe at my parents' house. In hindsight, I regret that decision. Back then, I lived in a shared house, so I thought my parents' home was safer. The moment my suspicions about Santos became crystal clear was during last year's Christmas break. That day, I had returned home. Since my mother was bedridden with a cold, I offered to help her manage the household bills. While searching her desk drawer for the invoices, I stumbled upon her credit card statement. As I reviewed it, my heart nearly stopped. Over the past 3 months, there were multiple purchases of expensive jewelry made under my mother's name. My mother wasn't particularly interested in jewelry. She only ever wore her wedding ring, a keepsake from my father, and a necklace Santos had given her on their anniversary. What caught my attention even more were the transaction locations: Las Vegas, Miami, and the Cayman Islands, places I hadn't heard of her visiting recently. The name, Brown Holdings, appeared frequently on the statements. This was the name of Santos's real estate company. "Mom, what is this?" As I was about to take the statement to my mother's bedroom, I ran into Santos in the kitchen, where he was making coffee. His eyes were glued to the statement in my hand. "Oh, that's just a business expense of mine," Santos explained with his usual gentle smile. "It's more tax efficient to go through Katrina's account. Don't worry, everything's been properly handled." At that moment, Daniel burst out of the living room. Dressed in a designer suit, he seemed as if he had been waiting for this exact moment. "Sally, you're just in time." Daniel began speaking excitedly. "Let me tell you about this new cryptocurrency project. It's an innovative platform for real estate transactions using blockchain. Major venture capital firms are already showing interest." Santos, with a satisfied expression, added, "Daniel's new venture looks really promising. You should consider investing." Their voices overlapped, cleverly drowning out my questions. Looking back, it was clearly a staged performance. A perfect act by father and son to dodge my pursuit. That day, I lost my chance to speak with my mother. Then, the event that would expose Santos's true nature took place. That day, I was volunteering at the local community center, helping veterans. At 2:47 p.m., the phone rang. On the other end, I heard Santos's voice. "Sally, there's something I need to tell you. I've invested your gold bars in Daniel's new venture." I felt the blood drain from my face. The gold bars he had invested were the savings I had carefully built up over 5 years, stored in the safe at my parents' house. Only my mother and I were supposed to have access to that safe. It was my father's final gift to me. After being diagnosed with cancer, he purchased a state-of-the-art safe equipped with biometric features, knowing I would need it as an adult. The safe had a 2-step authentication system requiring both a passcode and fingerprint recognition from my mother and me. I had hidden the safe in my late father's study, as I didn't trust Santos. I had believed its existence was completely hidden from him. The main safe in the master bedroom on the 2nd floor held wedding memorabilia and everyday jewelry. Santos only knew about that safe. Or so I thought. But as I would later learn, Santos had skillfully manipulated my mother into revealing the location of the hidden safe. "What have you done?" My voice was barely a whisper, but my inner rage roared like thunder. "Sally, we're family," Santos continued condescendingly. "Daniel has an incredible opportunity in his tech startup. The investment is guaranteed to triple within 6 months." Without saying a word, I hung up the phone. My hands were trembling, but my mind was razor sharp. My experience in medical device sales had taught me to think strategically in critical situations. I swiftly sprang into action. First, I called the law firm that handled my father's estate, Williams Associates. James Williams Jr., my father's close friend, had always looked out for me. "This is clearly a case of theft, Sally," James said after hearing my story. "We need to act quickly. Do you have all the gold purchase certificates?" Of course I had them. As my father had taught me, I had meticulously recorded every transaction. Next, I called all the dealers from whom I had purchased gold over the past 5 years. Most of them were high-end precious metal dealers in Boston, where I lived before moving to Montana. They confirmed my suspicions. 2 days ago, a man claiming to be Santos Brown had called and inquired about selling gold purchased under my name. The dealers, following standard procedures, had requested identification and purchase certificates to verify the sale. More importantly, they needed the correct answers to security questions I had set up during the purchases. This was a security measure I learned from my father. Thanks to this additional verification step, Santos had failed to answer the questions correctly, and the transactions had been blocked. My phone rang again. It was James Williams Jr. "I've contacted the police's financial crime unit," he said. "Due to the large amount involved, they're taking an interest. There's a possibility that other victims exist as well." Other victims. Those words hit me like a weight on my chest. How many people had Santos and Daniel deceived so far? The investigation progressed rapidly. As the police uncovered over a decade's worth of investment fraud, Santos's perfect facade began to crack. He had used his real estate business as a front, building trust within the community, and then exploiting that trust through various schemes. It became clear that my mother had also been a victim for many years. Santos had systematically withdrawn funds from her accounts, forged signatures on documents, and manipulated her into believing everything was fine. "Ms. Johnson, take a look at this," the police officer said, pointing to the transaction history of multiple accounts under my mother's name. "Over the past 10 years, approximately $500,000 has been systematically withdrawn." My hands trembled. That amount was nearly the same as the life insurance money my father had left for my mother. Every month, he moved small amounts of money, nothing significant enough to raise suspicion. It appears he labeled it as a family investment trust. Apparently, my mother had been receiving fabricated monthly earnings reports. In reality, the funds had been funneled through shell companies and ultimately into accounts in the Cayman Islands. "Your mother is a victim, Sally," the officer said gently, placing a hand on my shoulder. "But she's safe now, thanks to you." 3 days later, the confrontation took place. After meeting with the police, I returned home to face my family. The officers set up recording equipment, and I stepped into the house where I had grown up, preparing for one of the most difficult conversations of my life. Santos was seated in my father's old leather armchair. My mother was nervously arranging flowers in the kitchen, and Daniel paced around the room. As always, he was dressed in designer clothes and wore an expensive watch. Now that I knew the source of their wealth, the sight of him made me feel sick. "Let's talk," I said, my voice sounding stronger than I felt. Santos's smile didn't reach his eyes. "Is this about the gold bars? Sally, you're overreacting. This is a family matter." "Family." I let out a bitter laugh. "Is stealing from your stepdaughter what a family member would do? Is deceiving your wife a family thing to do?" My mother appeared in the doorway, wiping her hands on her apron. "Sally, what are you talking about?" I took out my phone and played the recording of my conversation with Santos. Then, I laid out the evidence. The forged documents, the bank statements revealing fraudulent transfers, and the reports from the gold dealers confirming his failed attempts to sell the gold. "Mom," I said gently, "he's been stealing from both of us for years." I watched the color drain from my mother's face as she looked at the man she had been married to for 10 years. Santos. Finally, his mask slipped. "Ungrateful woman," he growled at me. "I gave you and your mother the happy family you were so desperate for." At that moment, the police officers entered the room. They had heard everything through the wire I was wearing, Within minutes, Santos and Daniel were handcuffed and arrested on charges of fraud, forgery, and attempted theft. My mother collapsed into my father's old armchair. She looked smaller and older than I had ever seen her. "I'm so sorry, Sally," she whispered. "I should have listened to you. I should have seen it." I knelt beside her and took her hand in mine. "Mom, this isn't your fault. He's deceived many people." Naturally, my mother began the divorce proceedings. The days that followed were extremely difficult. The weeks after Santos's arrest were filled with legal meetings, police interrogations, and emotional revelations. During the trial, we learned the full extent of Santos's schemes. The depth of his crimes became increasingly evident. 10 years ago, he had begun investigating the financial situations of widows and single women as a real estate agent. According to one witness's testimony, Santos kept a list of targets, ranked by their assets, family situation, and most importantly, their ease of manipulation. My mother had been classified as an A ranked target. Notes left behind described her as emotionally vulnerable and lacking financial sense. I will never forget the look on my mother's face when she saw that. Daniel's role was more than just a failed entrepreneur. For years, he had been Santos's accomplice, using what appeared to be unsuccessful business ventures as a front for money laundering. Their pattern with other victims was always the same. Santos would identify a target and convince them to invest in the latest, innovative idea. Then, they would funnel the funds through various dummy companies. As the investigation progressed, the total amount of damages was revealed to exceed $5 million. Most of the victims were widows or families facing difficult circumstances. They had played the roles of charming, trustworthy individuals and gained the victims' confidence. Santos expertly exploited their vulnerabilities, while Daniel, under the guise of innovative businesses, steadily siphoned off their assets. It was also revealed that Santos had been monitoring my career closely, not out of fatherly concern, but to assess my financial situation. A private investigator's report, discovered in Santos's office, contained detailed records of the dates I had visited gold dealers, the amounts purchased, and the estimated value of my assets. Daniel had deliberately played the role of the incompetent stepbrother, creating friction between my mother and me. Whenever I questioned his investment ideas, Santos would persuade my mother by saying, "You can't trust family." Slowly, he widened the gap between us. On the edge of the report was a handwritten note from Santos. "Sally is highly cautious, but her trust in family is her weakness. There's potential to exploit her relationship with her mother." A chill ran down my spine when I saw those words. Santos and Daniel were sentenced to 15 years in federal prison. The judge emphasized how they had exploited family bonds and vulnerable individuals, delivering a harsh sentence. The case garnered national attention and became a catalyst for other victims of similar schemes to seek justice. I continue to volunteer at the community center once a week. One of my father's former colleagues encouraged me after the trial. "Your father never backed down from a fight. And Sally, neither did you. You fought for justice with the same courage your father showed on the battlefield." I still invest in gold, but now it's safely stored in a secure deposit box at a bank in Boston. The safe in my mother's house now holds my father's photographs and letters. Precious memories far more valuable than any gold. My mother established a foundation to support women recovering from financial abuse. Having reclaimed her voice and strength, she now speaks at conferences and support groups, turning her pain into purpose. One morning, a year after the incident, my mother and I sat on the porch drinking coffee. We watched as the Montana sunrise painted the sky in shades of pink and gold. "Your father would be so proud of you," my mother said softly. "Not just for catching Santos, for becoming the woman you are today." I squeezed my mother's hand tightly. "Dad would be proud of both of us. We survived, and we've become stronger." I realized that my father's lessons about gold were, in fact, lessons about life. I chose to fight for justice, to protect what was mine, and to honor my father's memory. In doing so, I not only safeguarded the inheritance but also strengthened the bonds that truly mattered. In the top-floor boardroom of Harrison Industries' Manhattan skyscraper, enveloped by the October twilight, Isabella Harrison stood by a large window, finalizing her documents while gazing at the distant skyline. For the past 3 years, she had dedicated herself to proving her worth at this company. After earning her MBA, leading numerous projects to success, and most importantly, striving to gain her father's trust. Around 4 p.m., the boardroom door began to open. Her father, Anthony Harrison, her uncle Daniel and his wife Kathy, and her cousin Joseph entered. Joseph's face bore his usual confident smile. "Everyone, please take a seat." Her father's voice lacked its usual authoritative tone. Isabella, feeling a sense of unease, took her seat. Across the table, Joseph casually flaunted his expensive watch. "Today, I have a significant announcement regarding the future of the company. I have decided to transfer management of the company to Joseph." Those words struck Isabella like arrows of ice. This decision has already been approved by the board of directors. Starting next month, Joseph will be the CEO. Wait a second. Isabella's voice echoed in the quiet boardroom. "Dad, this is not what we discussed." Joseph cleared his throat lightly. "Isabella, business sometimes. I'm not talking to you." Isabella glared sharply at Joseph, feeling her usual composure slip away. "Dad, you promised me. After I got my MBA, you said you'd give me a chance." "Isabella." This time, Aunt Kathy spoke up, thinking about the future of the family. "Family? I've worked late every day for the past 3 years, sacrificed my weekends, all for this company. What has Joseph done? He only joined the company recently." A heavy silence dominated the room. "Isabella, I fully recognize your contributions," her father said quietly. "That's why, in the HR department." "That's enough." Isabella stood up. "I've had enough." She stuffed her documents into her bag. As she headed for the door, Isabella turned back towards her father. "Dad, I'm disappointed in you, but even more in myself. I trusted you too much." With those final words, Isabella left the boardroom, focusing solely on getting away. Just as the elevator doors were about to close, she caught her father's puzzled expression. She heard someone call her name from behind, but she didn't turn back. Clutching her leather bag tightly, she stepped out into the chilly October air. The streets were gradually filling with people finishing work. Isabella walked mechanically, replaying her last conversation with her father over and over in her head. "Why?" she murmured softly. As she stopped at a traffic light, her phone vibrated in her pocket. Messages from her best friend, Christina, lined the screen. "Are you okay? I've been worried since I can't reach you." "Where are you?" "Isabella, please reply." Isabella typed a brief reply. "Central Park. On a bench." 15 minutes later, Christina sat down beside her, holding 2 takeaway coffees. "How did the meeting go?" Christina asked, her tone suggesting she already knew the answer. "It's over," Isabella said in a hollow voice. "Everything." "What do you mean?" "Dad decided to hand over the company to Joseph." Christina exclaimed in surprise. "What?" "But Isabella, you've been working towards that for..." "Yes, 3 years. The MBA, working late nights, sacrificing weekends for projects. It was all for nothing. But that's not right. Your dad has always trusted me." Isabella grimaced with a wry smile. "I thought so too, but the look in Dad's eyes today..." The emotion in his eyes was more than just regret. There seemed to be a deep sense of guilt lurking there. "So, what will you do now?" "I don't know. But I can't stay here." That night, Isabella began packing her belongings in her apartment. Documents, photographs, keepsakes, everything seemed different now. Especially the family photo on the living room shelf caught her attention. In the photo, her father and Joseph's expressions bore a striking resemblance. Isabella picked up the photo and stared at it intently. The phone rang. It was from her father. Isabella ignored the call and tossed the photo into a box. However, deep down, she began to faintly sense that this was more than just a management issue. "Are you really okay?" It was the second week's morning in Christina's guest room. The morning sun shone through the window, illuminating the unopened boxes. "Yeah, somehow." Isabella tried to smile, but it didn't come out right. "Christina, don't you find it odd?" "What?" "Everything. Dad has always been about meritocracy. Ever since I was little, he taught me that. Success depends on effort. Yet, Joseph has no achievements. Not just that. The timing of Dad's decision is odd too. Just as I got my MBA and started being entrusted with important projects." Christina put toast on a plate and said, "Family matters can be complicated sometimes, right?" "Yes, family matters. There must be more to why Dad wanted to pass on the company than just business judgment." Suddenly, Isabella said, "I need to go back home to pick up some stuff I left." "What now? Are you planning to see your dad?" "No, he should be at work on weekday afternoons." An hour later, Isabella stood in front of her family home. She unlocked the door and quietly entered. The housekeeper, Michelle, only comes on Thursdays. It was supposed to be empty today. On her way to her old room upstairs, she stopped. The study door was slightly open. Normally, Dad always locks it. Hesitating, Isabella entered. The large bookshelf was lined with old albums. As a child, looking at these albums was only for special occasions. She picked up the oldest album and began flipping through the pages. Her parents' wedding, Isabella's birth, her early childhood photos, and then the pages where Joseph began to appear. Isabella quickly flipped back through the pages. Joseph started appearing in family photos when he was about 5 years old. There were no photos of him before that. "Isabella?" Turning around, there stood Rebecca. She had been working at the company for over 30 years as a secretary. She had been contributing to the company even before her father became president. "Rebecca, why are you here?" "I came to sort some documents. I have the keys to the study." Her eyes were fixed on the album Isabella was holding. They stared at each other in silence for a long time. Then, Rebecca sighed deeply. "Your grandfather always said this day would come." Rebecca slowly entered the room and closed the door. "Mr. Frank Harrison, your grandfather left some instructions before he passed away." Rebecca handed Isabella an old envelope. "This was left for you by your grandfather for when you're ready to learn the truth." The envelope was labeled, "For Isabella, when you are ready to know the truth," in her grandfather's distinctive handwriting. Inside was a note and another envelope. The note was succinctly written, "Dear Isabella, if you are reading this, it means you have begun to seek the truth. Deliver the next envelope to my old friend and family lawyer, Robert Morris. He will explain everything. With love, grandfather." Robert Morris. Isn't he the company's advisory lawyer? No. Mr. Morris was your grandfather's personal lawyer, unrelated to the company. Isabella pulled out her smartphone and searched for Morris's law firm. The office was located on the Upper East Side. "Take care, but make me one promise. Do not discuss this matter with anyone yet." Isabella nodded silently in agreement. During the taxi ride, she thought of her grandfather. He was a calm and wise man, always concerned about the future of his family. Morris's law firm was located on the 5th floor of an old building. Upon opening the heavy wooden door, Isabella was greeted by the office's classical ambience. I am Isabella Harrison. I would like to meet with Mr. Robert Morris. I'm sorry, but today's appointments are. I was referred by my grandfather, Frank Harrison. The receptionist's expression changed upon hearing this. Please wait a moment. A few minutes later, a gentleman with white hair appeared. Isabella? Is it really you? Robert Morris looked much older than Isabella remembered, but his eyes still held a sharp glint. Frank told me you might come someday. He led Isabella into an inner office. This is from my grandfather. Isabella handed him an envelope. Robert carefully opened it, and after inspecting the contents, he let out a deep sigh. Please have a seat, Isabella, he said in a calm voice. This is going to be a long conversation. He retrieved an old file from the bookshelf labeled Harrison Family. Personal Records 1995 to 1996. There's something you need to know about your father and Joseph. Their relationship. Isabella gasped, intuitively sensing that what she was about to hear would forever change her life. Your father was a law student in 1995 and was dating a woman named Kathy Thompson. Kathy. My aunt. He pulled out a photograph. It showed a young Kathy. She was a student at the same university, in the School of Education. Isabella gasped again. That spring, Kathy became pregnant. However, their relationship had already ended by then. So, Kathy decided to raise the child alone. Your father was already dating your current mother at that time. A heavy silence fell over the office. That child was Joseph. Robert nodded quietly. Thus, Isabella and Joseph were half-siblings, a fact that their father had kept hidden from Isabella. 2 years later, Kathy met Daniel Harrison. He promised to raise Joseph as his own son. But why now? Your grandfather, Frank, knew everything. Robert opened another file. He was concerned that this secret would surface someday, especially when the issue of company succession arose. That's why grandfather left the letter with Rebecca. Yes. Robert stood up and retrieved a new document from the safe. This is the deed to a trust fund your grandfather established in case you lost control of the company. Isabella took the document. While conditional, this can be used as capital to start a new business. Frank believed in your talent. But why didn't grandfather tell my father everything? He respected each person's choices. Your father's, Kathy's, and Daniel's. Does my mother know? No, only a very few involved are aware of this truth. Everything seemed to connect now. Her father's sudden decision, the transfer of the company to Joseph, and the discomfort she had long felt. Her father had feigned the promise of leadership to Isabella, only to let her work for nothing in return. When the time came to decide on a president, his guilt prevailed, and he chose to make amends to Joseph, disregarding Isabella's relentless efforts. What did my grandfather want by telling me this truth? He wanted you to find your own path, not tied to the company's succession, but to pursue your own potential. As she gazed out at the Manhattan nightscape, she solidified her new resolve. Thank you, Mr. Morris. She turned back. I will fulfill my grandfather's wishes in my own way. That night, Isabella thought about her grandfather as she looked out from her apartment window. He had always been concerned about the future of his family, and now his legacy was supporting her new beginning. I will now explain our company's efforts to reduce environmental impacts in next-generation manufacturing technologies. In a boardroom on the top floor of a Wall Street skyscraper, Isabella stood before 10 investors. 1 year since its inception, her company had steadily grown. The presentation screen displayed diagrams of innovative manufacturing processes. An intriguing proposal. An elderly investor leaned forward. However, such innovative technology requires a significant initial investment. Just then, the conference room door opened. I apologize for my delay. Joseph entered with a broad smile. Isabella's heart skipped a beat. I am Joseph Harrison from Harrison Industries. he introduced himself. "Actually, we have been considering a similar project." The atmosphere in the room shifted. Investors' gazes darted between Isabella and Joseph. What a coincidence. Isabella maintained her composure. "However, our patented technology is all ready. Of course, our approach is a bit different, more traditional." The presentation ended as planned, but the investor's demeanor had clearly become more cautious. "Isabella," one investor approached her after the meeting, "your proposal is excellent. However, competing with a major firm like Harrison Industries, their technology is different." Isabella responded firmly, "And we already have a track record." Back at the office, Christina was waiting. "How did it go?" Joseph showed up. Isabella sank into a chair, tired. "It seems his father's company is trying to enter our business model. But that means..." "Yes." Isabella opened her laptop. "They have a critical weakness." The latest financial report of Harrison Industries was displayed on her screen. Under Joseph's management, the company's performance had rapidly deteriorated. "Look, research and development expenses have been significantly cut. They shouldn't have the capacity to start new projects, and... Never mind. I can't tell you yet, but rest assured, they won't be an obstacle for us." That night, on her way home, Isabella received an email from an industry magazine editor. "Your information was very helpful. The article will be published tomorrow." As she looked at the screen, a cold smile formed on her lips. For the past 3 weeks, she had been meticulously preparing. Evidence of Joseph's sloppy management, traces of fraudulent accounting, and, most importantly, opaque financial transactions with Daniel. She had anonymously provided all the evidence to the industry magazine. Gathering information was extremely challenging. However, many of the long-term employees, dissatisfied with Joseph's autocratic management, were willing to help. They gradually compiled evidence together. The next morning, the article sent shockwaves through the industry. Harrison Industries. A muddled management revealed. It detailed Joseph's lack of managerial skills, sloppy accounting practices, and illegal financial operations under headlines. The article meticulously reported on several dubious transactions since his appointment, significant cuts in R&D spending, opaque foreign investments, and most notably, inappropriate transactions with a company managed by Daniel. Everything was substantiated with detailed documents and testimonies from insiders. The Securities and Exchange Commission immediately launched an investigation. The sight of investigators entering the headquarters was broadcast on national news. Joseph was forced to hold an emergency press conference. Even dressed in an expensive suit, his face was visibly fraught with anxiety. "I deeply apologize for the issues raised in this report." Isabella's father, Anthony, was also present at the press conference. Gone was the image of a dignified executive. Instead, a tired old man sat, apologizing for his son's scandal. "It was my mismanagement. I take full responsibility for everything." Reporters bombarded him with further questions. Why had he entrusted the management to his nephew, Joseph? What were his thoughts on the treatment of his competent biological daughter, Isabella Harrison? Anthony evaded all questions with the phrase, "This matter is currently under investigation." However, that was just the tip of the iceberg. As the Securities and Exchange Commission's investigation progressed, more severe issues came to light. Systematic embezzlement by Daniel and Joseph, fictitious transactions, and illegal transfers to overseas accounts were uncovered. Asset hiding under Kathy's name was also discovered. Harrison Industries' stock price hit the daily limit down day after day. Long-standing business partners terminated their contracts one after another, and banks began to pull their loans. The board of directors convened an emergency general meeting and resolved to dismiss Joseph as CEO. But it was already too late. The company's reputation had hit rock bottom, and shareholders were preparing for a class action lawsuit. The once glamorous headquarters building was besieged daily by the media, waiting for new scandals to emerge. Meanwhile, Isabella's new company was achieving steady growth. Her developed environmental technologies were setting new standards in the industry. Major media outlets hailed her as the standard-bearer of the environmental tech revolution, and investors were eagerly injecting capital. Particularly notable was her newly developed manufacturing process. This groundbreaking technology reduced environmental impact by 70% compared to traditional methods and had already secured several patents. This technology represented a breakthrough in the very field Harrison Industries had long pursued. Isabella's success was proving to be the most effective revenge against her father and Joseph. The daughter they had underestimated and tried to sideline was now leading the forefront of the industry. This irony became a quiet topic of discussion among industry insiders. 6 months later, the day of arrest arrived. Joseph, Daniel, and Kathy were arrested on charges of securities fraud and embezzlement. Isabella's father, Anthony, was also charged as an accomplice. The image of them being led away in handcuffs from their upscale homes topped the evening news. Harrison Industries executives arrested, charged with fraudulent accounting and embezzlement. The arrests shook the industry once again. The cunning method of money laundering through Daniel's affiliated companies was particularly well reported due to its sophistication. The trial lasted over a year. During that time, Isabella never set foot in the courtroom. However, she meticulously followed every development. One shocking fact after another came to light in court. Joseph had started diverting company assets for personal use shortly after his appointment. Daniel assisted him while funneling benefits to his own company. And Anthony had known everything and turned a blind eye. In the end, Joseph received a 5-year prison sentence. Daniel got 7 years, Kathy received a 3-year sentence with probation, and Anthony was sentenced to 4 years. When the verdicts were delivered, there was no trace of their former arrogance on Anthony and Joseph's faces. 4 years later, in autumn, Isabella was reading the morning paper in her new office on the top floor of a Manhattan building. The front page featured a bold headline: "The shocking truth of the Harrison family. Former CEO Joseph Harrison's secret birth revealed." The article detailed how Joseph was actually the biological child of Anthony and Kathy, raised secretly as Daniel's adoptive child. DNA test results were published, leaving no room for doubt. Just as expected, Isabella quietly closed the newspaper. In fact, she had been pulling the strings behind this report. Old documents found during the securities fraud investigation, information from Rebecca, and the cooperation of Robert Morris. She had strategically leaked all the evidence to the media. "Are you really okay with this?" Christina asked, now the CEO of the company and visibly concerned. "Yes." Isabella looked out the window. "This ends all the lies." That afternoon, she received a call from her father. It had been 2 weeks since his release from prison. This report must have been the final blow for him. "I want to meet." His voice was hoarse. As she entered the restaurant, she immediately spotted her father. The once dignified executive was gone, replaced by just a tired old man sitting by the window, waiting for her. "All of this was your doing, wasn't it?" There was no anger in her father's voice. Only a deep weariness could be felt. There was a need to reveal the truth. Isabella quietly replied, "To ensure that no one else would be hurt." "Joseph. He saw this article in prison." "I know. But he had the right to know, too." Her father was silent for a long time. "I made all the wrong choices." His voice trembled faintly. "When I left Kathy and found out about Joseph, I ran away from everything. And that regret influenced how I treated you. That's why you let me make futile efforts, only to hand the company over to Joseph." "That's right. And as a result, we lost everything." Isabella looked at her father's aged face. The intense anger she once felt was no longer there. "I have found a new life," she said quietly. "Just as grandfather wanted. Frank. My father saw through my foolishness until the end." "No." Isabella shook her head. "Grandfather just wanted to give all of us a chance to face the truth." As they left the restaurant, the evening sky was beautiful. A week after the reports, Joseph's wife filed for divorce. There were rumors that Kathy had fled the country, and Daniel tearfully apologized in front of reporters at a press conference. It was all a tragedy spawned by years of lies. Back in the office, Isabella's desk was piled with plans for a new project: next-generation development in environmental technology. This was truly what she had wanted to pursue. Outside the window, the evening sky slowly enveloped in the cloak of night. The former headquarters building of Harrison Industries was now occupied by another company. However, Isabella's new company continued to grow steadily. It was not just a story of revenge, but a journey in pursuit of truth, exactly as her grandfather had wanted. The moment I picked up the velvet box that held the wedding ring, I immediately noticed its lightness and felt something was off. Perhaps deep down, I had a premonition of what was about to unfold. My name is Linda Ford. I am 28 years old and work as an analyst at an investment bank. 5 months ago, my longtime boyfriend, Anthony Reynolds, proposed to me. As our wedding day approached, it had become my daily routine to admire my wedding ring each morning. Anthony's parents, who are well-known tycoons in the finance industry, chose this special ring as a gift for their son's fiancé. The moment I opened the box, my heart nearly stopped. It was empty. The ring that should have been sparkling in the morning light was not there. "Mom," I shouted as I raced down the stairs. "Have you seen my ring? Did you move it?" My mother, who was sipping coffee in the kitchen, slowly looked up. Her fingers, perfectly manicured, were wrapped around her favorite mug. She had always been a perfectionist and had imposed those values on us, her daughters. "What do you mean?" she frowned. "Isn't it in your room? You've been so busy with the wedding preparations, maybe you just forgot where you put it." "The box is empty," I said, my hands trembling as I presented the velvet case. "It's always been right here." Without even looking at the box, my mother replied, "You're getting messier, aren't you? With all the wedding stuff on your mind." Just then, I heard my sister Catherine's laughter coming from the backyard. At 23, she had dropped out of university and since then had been leisurely spending her days at home, not working. I looked out the window. There was Catherine, sunbathing and fiddling with her smartphone. "Catherine." I burst out into the backyard. The screen door slammed loudly behind me. "Do you know anything about my ring?" She turned around. "Oh, hey Linda," Catherine said, her face breaking into the smug smile she'd had since we were children. "What's going on? What's the rush? Do you know where my wedding ring is?" "Where?" "I don't know. It's gone. It's nowhere to be found." "Really? Are you sure you checked properly?" "Oh, I remember now. I needed to pay off some debts, so I pawned off your ring to buy one with Michael for ourselves. I got a pretty good price for it. Anthony can buy you a better one." I was stunned by her unexpected confession. Our relationship as sisters had always been like this. Catherine, the youngest, was spoiled by our parents and got whatever she wanted through others. In contrast, as the eldest, I was always held to high standards and had to earn everything through my own efforts. It had been like this since we were little. When Catherine and I made the same mistakes, I was the only one who got scolded. "Because you're the older sister." I despised those words. When Catherine was born, I was 5 years old. Our parents treated her as something special, and I was always relegated to a supporting role. Even if I excelled academically or won awards in extracurricular activities, my parents' attention was always directed towards Catherine. In high school, I consistently maintained top grades. I had a scholarship lined up, and a dream of working in the finance sector was within reach. Meanwhile, Catherine's grades were poor, and she showed no interest in extracurricular activities. Yet our parents continued to say she has her own strengths. After starting university on a scholarship, I began an independent life. I worked part-time on weekends and gained internship experience. That's where I met Anthony. He was a junior executive training at his father's company, and he highly valued my analytical skills. Meanwhile, Catherine dropped out of the local university shortly after enrolling. "The university just isn't for me," she said, and started working part-time at a clothing store. As my relationship with Anthony deepened, his family warmly welcomed me. Anthony's mother, especially, trusted me to be a great partner to support her son. The ring Anthony's parents chose for me was also imbued with such sentiments. "Don't say such ridiculous things." I stepped forward and glared at Catherine. "Where is my wedding ring? It's a precious ring specially chosen by Anthony's parents. Give it back to me right now. I've already sold it, so I don't have it anymore. I'm planning to get married to my handsome boyfriend eventually, so I used it to pay off debts and to fund our own wedding ring. Catherine is currently infatuated with her boyfriend, sparing no expense on beauty treatments and high-end brands to become his ideal woman. Whether it's genuine love or she's just being used is honestly unclear." "Linda, what are you yelling about?" It was my father's voice. He was standing at the back door. Behind him, my mother wore a worried expression. "Catherine stole my wedding ring and sold it without permission," I said. "No, Dad, that's not it." Catherine's lower lip trembled. Her knack for acting hadn't changed since she was a child. My mother stepped forward, placing her hand on my arm. "Catherine is your sister. Why would you say such awful things? She had her reasons. She was being chased by debt collectors. So how does that give her the right to steal and sell my wedding ring? Are you serious? It's my ring. You think I can just stay quiet after being told she stole and sold it?" I shook off my mother's hand. My voice was trembling with anger. "Just buy a new ring," my father said with exasperation. "That's absurd. That ring is very special, and it's irreplaceable." I stared at my parents. "Besides, this is a crime." My voice echoed through the garden. "Oh, honey," my mother's voice carried that condescending tone I despised. "I understand you're upset. But don't blame Catherine so harshly. Everyone makes mistakes, don't they? Why can't you forgive her just this once?" I looked at the three of them. My mother's disdainful expression, my father's awkward avoidance of eye contact, and Catherine's smug smirk. For 25 years, they had always favored Catherine and protected her. I hadn't expected it to this extent. At that moment, something inside me solidified. A lifetime of patience crystallized into a resolution that settled in my heart. "I understand," I said quietly. "If that's how you feel, I have my own plans. You better get ready." I heard my parents calling my name from behind, but I didn't look back as I entered the house. They had no idea what was about to happen. I quickly packed the essentials and headed to my best friend Maggie's apartment. I spent the night at Maggie's place. Maggie and I met in a bookkeeping club at university. She's a sharp-witted and outspoken woman, a skilled trader working on Wall Street. Though our personalities are opposites, we complement each other perfectly. How did it come to this? Maggie handed me a glass of wine as we looked out over the Manhattan skyline from her apartment. "I don't know." I took the trembling glass of wine. "Why does it have to be like this, even though we're family?" "Linda." Maggie looked into my eyes with a serious expression. "You've always sacrificed yourself for your family, but this situation cannot be overlooked. This isn't just a sibling fight. It's a serious crime." Maggie began to calmly analyze the situation. "First, let's get the facts straight. This is a clear case of theft. The ring was bought by Anthony's parents. That means the Reynolds family's reputation is also involved. Yes, but what should I do? It's necessary to set things right because we're family. Maggie gripped my hand firmly. If you overlook this incident, Catherine will repeat the same behavior. That benefits no one. We talked until late into the night. Maggie not only explained the legal aspects in detail but also patiently listened to my emotional venting. Do you remember? In university, you covered for my investment mistake. Maggie reminisced. You scolded me harshly then, but afterwards you helped me find a solution. It's the same with this situation with Catherine. Sometimes tough love is necessary. Maggie's words gradually cleared my doubts. Her presence was a great support during this difficult time. Hey, Maggie said as she topped up our wine. Don't you think this situation has revealed your parents' true nature? They've coddled Catherine and placed excessive expectations on you. Is that really love? Those words articulated a question that had long lingered in my heart. Maggie has always provided me with perspectives I hadn't noticed. However, Anthony's parents are different. Maggie continued. They recognize and trust your worth. You must address this situation properly so as to not betray that trust. Maggie's advice was always spot on. It was because of her presence that I was able to make the right decisions. The next morning, I drove back to my parents' house with a clear purpose. Everyone was gathered in the kitchen, as if nothing had happened. "Oh, good," my mother said as she slid a plate of pancakes onto the counter. "Linda, we were worried about you." Seeing that I remained standing, it was clear they expected me to have calmed down and to handle things smoothly, as usual. Catherine was sitting at the table. Just as I frowned, my father started, "Dear Linda, we've been discussing and thinking." "No," I interrupted him. "You don't need to think about anything. That ring is mine, and Catherine stole it, and then sold it. She needs to return it to me immediately." Actually, my mother straightened up. "We'll buy you a new ring. A better one. That way everyone can be happy, right?" I stared at her in disbelief. "Everyone can be happy? My sister stole my precious ring from me, and you're okay with that?" "It's not like that." "But you're the older sister, right? Can't you forgive a small mistake?" My heart pounded fiercely. I slowly took out my smartphone. It was on speaker mode and a call was active. "Mr. Ford, what exactly is going on?" A male voice came through the phone. Is that James Reynolds?" My parents looked shocked, as if the blood had drained from their faces. The caller was Anthony's father, James Reynolds. He's a businessman with over 30 years of experience. He owns multiple companies and his wealth is immense. Before returning home, I had consulted him over the phone and secretly slipped the still active smartphone into my pocket on speaker mode. I continued speaking while maintaining eye contact with Catherine. "I'm sorry to disturb you, Mr. Reynolds. Could you please explain the situation?" "Yes. As you've just heard, my sister stole the wedding ring you bought for me and sold it to pay off her debts." I kept the phone on speaker mode, still looking directly at Catherine. "Please continue." "When my parents learned the truth, they reproached me, arguing that everyone makes mistakes. Why can't you forgive just one mistake?" they asked. They seemed sweaty and panicked. "I see. The situation seems more serious than I thought." "Mr. Reynolds," my mother managed to say, "we're really sorry to Linda. But Catherine was in a tough situation. It was a hard decision for her. We will buy Linda a new ring ourselves." Catherine then added, "Mr. Reynolds, I'm really sorry, but Linda has a perfect job and a perfect life. She can get another ring. That's unacceptable." "That's enough." James' voice was calm, but there was a hint of anger in it. The next day, our family sat in the Reynolds' study, facing Anthony's parents. Anthony, having heard the situation from me, was also present. The Reynolds' study was filled with solid furniture and historic paintings. James Reynolds, a wealthy businessman with over 30 years on Wall Street, was visibly angry. The ring we bought for Linda isn't just any piece of jewelry. His voice was low yet forceful. Elizabeth, Anthony's mother, said tearfully. That ring was specially chosen as a symbol of welcoming Linda into our family. It represents our feelings. Seeing the expressions of my parents and Catherine, it seemed they finally realized the gravity of what they had done. Catherine's face was pale, and she couldn't raise her head. "I'm sorry. My daughter has done something terrible." My father said those words with all the effort he could muster. Tears filled my mother's eyes as she repeatedly apologized, desperate and shaken. The study was dominated by a heavy, oppressive atmosphere. Amidst this tension, Anthony stood up decisively. He stood next to his father, James, and promised, "I will find it and get it back." Anthony himself was a businessman who had successfully led an investment company at a young age. His determination to protect his family's honor was evident in his eyes. "Check every pawnshop," Anthony's father commanded. "Don't worry about the costs. It's for the family's honor." The next few days began with us going on a journey from Manhattan to Brooklyn, visiting each pawnshop one by one. From high-end stores to small shops, I continued to show photos. "Have you seen a ring like this? Has a young woman brought in a ring with these features?" On the third day, an elderly shop owner in Brooklyn showed us his shop's surveillance footage. "This woman brought it in a few days ago." The footage clearly showed Catherine. She had sold the ring and received a substantial amount of cash. "It hasn't been cashed out yet, so it should still be in the store," the shopkeeper explained, retrieving the ring from the back. From the woman's uneasy demeanor, I sensed something was off. "I'm glad I held off on cashing it." Anthony immediately verified the ring. "It's undeniable. This is it." "Thank goodness." I'm so relieved. Overwhelmed with relief, I couldn't help but cry. "We've successfully retrieved the ring." "I don't even know how to thank you enough," I said gratefully. With the ring in hand, I went to the Reynolds' house and presented it to Anthony's parents. His mother silently hugged me, while his father sighed deeply in relief. "We will handle this matter, including taking legal steps," his father stated firmly. "Linda, you are a member of our family. Compromise is not an option when it comes to protecting our honor." I nodded in agreement. Through this experience, I felt even more strongly the deep love embedded within their sternness. For them, the ring was not just an ornament, but a symbol of family bonds and trust. We began the process of filing a criminal complaint at the police station. While drafting the report on Catherine's theft, the detective reviewed the surveillance footage. "There is clear evidence here," the detective noted. "The pawnshop transaction footage is undeniable, and we've identified the ring." My parents rushed to the police station. My mother broke down crying, and my father looked pale as death. "Please, drop the charges," my mother pleaded. "It's too late," I said to them quietly. "This is a crime." 2 days later, Catherine was released. A meeting with lawyers was arranged, and both families discussed the matter. The expressions on my parents' and Catherine's faces were more serious than I had ever seen. "We were wrong," my father admitted quietly. I shifted my gaze from my father to Catherine and suggested, "Let's discuss and explore a way to settle this." The terms of the settlement we proposed were clear. Catherine would fully repay the amount used to buy back the ring, and she would cease all contact with me and my family. Eventually, my parents accepted these terms, and Catherine agreed as well. After a heavy silence, my father spoke. "We accept." This was a failure in our upbringing, he acknowledged. My mother, tears brimming in her eyes, nodded. "Linda, we have hurt you for years." "I'm truly sorry," she said. Her hand trembled slightly as she signed the settlement document. This marked the beginning of a new chapter for our family. "Catherine, tell me one thing. How did it come to this?" "Because you were perfect." Catherine answered with a bitter expression. "You could do everything, and you were excellent." In contrast, I always felt inferior. I wanted to affirm my worth by depending on Mom and Dad, but I leaned on them too much. I desperately needed money. The debt collectors were after me every day. Hearing this, I felt a mix of complex emotions. Indeed, I had always tried to be the good child. I strove to meet my parents' expectations and achieve societal success. But was that truly the life I wanted? When the settlement was finalized and I decided to cut off contact with Catherine, a profound emptiness spread within me. Can the bonds of family really be severed so easily? Afterward, my parents resolved to encourage Catherine to become independent, pushing her to live on her own. She is currently looking for an apartment in preparation for this new chapter. Months later, just 1 week before my wedding to Anthony, my mother unexpectedly visited my apartment. "Linda, can we talk for a moment?" she asked, her usual assertive tone replaced by a more subdued demeanor. "I've been thinking a lot about Catherine," she began quietly. "We've indulged her too much, always accepting her excuses and never holding her accountable. And with you, we've been too harsh and unfair on you. Mom, we made a significant mistake with the ring incident. Trying to cover up our daughter's crime was the lowest act as parents," she admitted, tears glistening in her eyes. "But you did the right thing. Taking legal action made Catherine face reality, which ultimately benefited her. That evening, I received a call from my father. 'Linda, may I attend the wedding?' His voice was unusually hesitant. Our relationship had been awkward since the ring incident. 'Yes, Dad. Anthony would be happy for you to come, too,' I replied. 'Thank you,' he paused before continuing. 'I've been taking dance lessons. I don't want to ruin the father-daughter dance.' His words made me smile involuntarily. Imagining my always dignified father learning to dance for me warmed my heart. My decision to forgive my parents was influenced by their sincere efforts. Catherine had received $20,000 from the pawn shop. To make amends, my parents decided to use part of their retirement funds to repay this amount. 'This is also our way of making amends for everything else we've done wrongly to you,' my father had said. The repayment from Catherine was proceeding smoothly. My father checked the payments at the bank every month, his sense of responsibility to the family evident. Anthony's parents, without ever mentioning the incident with the ring, wholeheartedly celebrated our new beginning. His mother, especially, meticulously helped with everything from choosing the dress to decorating the venue. 'You are our pride,' she told me on the final fitting day. 'I know you will make Anthony happy. But more importantly, I want you to cherish your own happiness,' she said, a sentiment no one had ever expressed to me before. My own happiness. What was that exactly? On the morning of the wedding, I greeted the day with a surprisingly calm spirit. While the makeup artist applied the final touches, I studied my reflection in the mirror. "Linda," a knock on the door interrupted my thoughts. It was my mother. "Come in," I invited her. She teared up seeing me in my white dress. "You look perfect," she murmured. "Mom, look at this," I said, picking up an envelope from the dresser. "It's a letter from Catherine." Since the incident, I hadn't seen Catherine, adhering to the terms of our settlement, which also included no contact. Occasionally, I felt a pang of loneliness, a contradiction I was fully aware of. Despite the years of distress caused by her actions and the unjust treatment by our parents, recalling Catherine's words of anguish that day stirred complex emotions within me. "Have you opened it?" my mother asked softly. "Not yet," I replied, caressing the envelope gently. "But I don't think I need to open it now." Instead, I stood up and took her hand. "Today is a day for new beginnings. Let's leave the past behind and look forward." She nodded silently and embraced me. In the chapel, Anthony awaited me with a gentle smile. My father, nervous yet composed, took my arm and we began walking down the aisle. "Don't be nervous, Dad," I whispered softly. "Show me the results of those lessons," I teased. My father gave a small smile. As we exchanged vows and rings, a moment of hesitation appeared when Anthony slipped the ring onto my finger. But as his warm hand enveloped mine and the ring settled quietly, it felt as if everything returned to its rightful place. During the father-daughter dance at the reception, my father led me with slightly awkward, yet earnest steps. "Linda," he whispered as the song was ending. "Thank you." "For what?" "For teaching me to live strongly and honestly." That night, after the party ended and I was alone in my hotel room, I finally opened Catherine's letter. To my big sister. "I won't ask for your forgiveness. I don't deserve to. But I needed to tell you that your decision was right. When you said you would press charges, I was filled with anger and resentment. But now I understand. It was the wake-up call I needed. I'm currently in counseling. I've also started repaying my debts. For the first time, I'm trying to solve my problems on my own without relying on our parents. This might be the first time I'm truly taking responsibility for my actions. I hope you find happiness. I truly wish that for you. From the bottom of my heart, Catherine." A new chapter for our family was about to begin. By the way, it seems Catherine has broken up with that boyfriend. I think it's for the best. Sometimes the deepest wounds give rise to the most beautiful lessons. And sometimes, to reclaim what was lost, you have to let go of everything. That was the true brilliance I learned from The Ring. My name is Christina, and I am 34 years old. I have been living quietly and peacefully with my 30-year-old husband, Michael. We met through a friend when I was 24 years old, and after 3 years of dating, we got married. We have been married for 7 years now. We don't have children, but we have been leading a reasonably happy life. However, one day, I received a phone call from my 27-year-old sister, Hannah. "Christina, please, can I stay at your house for a while?" she asked in a tearful voice. As I listened to her story, I learned that she had broken up with her fiancé and had also caused trouble at work, which led to her quitting her job. She had nowhere else to go. "All right, you can stay with us for a while," I said. As a family, I couldn't just leave her be. My husband Michael also readily agreed, saying, "Of course, it's okay." But at that time, I already felt a slight discomfort deep inside. The day my sister Hannah moved into our house, she displayed an uncharacteristic cheerfulness for someone who had just lost a lover. "I knew it. Your house is lovely. It's like a hotel," she exclaimed, sitting boldly on the living room sofa and elegantly sipping tea. I smiled wryly to myself and thought, well, it's just for a little while. However, her behavior gradually changed. First, it was her demeanor. Initially, she acted apologetic, but within a few days she began to behave as if it was her own home. She would wake up later than me, and while I was making coffee in the kitchen, she would start ordering me around, saying, "Christina, get the milk." That wasn't all. She also became unusually close to my husband, Michael. "Michael, you're trying to become an actor, right? That's wonderful." "I think men with dreams are really attractive," she said, her eyes sparkling. To which my husband Michael smiled as if not entirely displeased. "Thank you, Hannah. But I'm still getting rejected at auditions," he replied. "That's not true. You'll definitely succeed soon. Talented people will eventually flourish." My sister Hannah exaggeratedly praised and encouraged him. I felt uneasy watching this scene. Of course, there's nothing wrong with my sister encouraging my husband Michael, but there was a strange familiarity in her attitude. Moreover, my sister Hannah began to frequently bring up the topic of house ownership. "This house is really spacious and lovely, isn't it? Michael, did you find it?" "No, Christina decided on it. She handled all the contract procedures too," my husband Michael responded. "Oh." My sister Hannah fell silent, as if pondering something, then changed the topic. However, a strange unease began to grow inside me. From then on, she sought more opportunities to be alone with my husband Michael. I had to leave the house for work during the day. During that time, she would watch movies or go to cafes with my husband Michael. Today, I went to a new cafe with Michael. It was very stylish, and the coffee was delicious. My sister Hannah excitedly told me when I got home. I maintained my composure, but I felt a slight thorn in my heart. A few weeks later, I noticed a subtle change in my husband Michael's attitude. "Christina, have you been cold to me lately?" he asked one night. "What?" "No, not at all," I replied. "Somehow I feel like Hannah sees me better than you do," he said. I was shocked and angry at the same time. "Michael, have you forgotten that I'm the one supporting you?" My husband Michael was at a loss for words. He lived like a stay-at-home husband while trying to become an actor, and I continued to work to support his dream. Yet, what was he talking about? That night, I sat alone in the living room, deep in thought. Since my sister Hannah had come, my relationship with my husband Michael seemed to have slowly changed. Was I truly supporting him? Or was I just being conveniently used? I had no concrete evidence yet. I couldn't imagine then that this discomfort would eventually lead to a definitive betrayal. One day, I came home and immediately sensed an unusual atmosphere. The house was too quiet. Normally, I would hear the TV or my husband Michael and my sister Hannah's laughter, but today there was nothing. As I entered the living room, my husband Michael and my sister Hannah were sitting on the sofa, smiling as if they had been waiting for me. "Welcome home, Christina. We were waiting to have dinner together." "I'm home." The house was strangely quiet, so I thought you both weren't here. "Thanks for making dinner." "I'm starving." After dinner, while I was cleaning up, my husband suddenly said, "I want a divorce." "What? What did you just say?" My hand, holding a wine glass on the dining table, involuntarily stiffened. My husband Michael's face showed no sign of guilt. Instead, there was almost a relaxed smile. "I've fallen out of love with you. I can't be with you anymore, Christina." His words were chillingly cold. I was shocked by the way he treated the time we had built together as a couple, as if it were nothing significant. "Michael, is that really all? Have you really lost interest in me so easily?" My husband Michael did not answer, but instead looked over my shoulder at Hannah. At that moment, a bad feeling surged through me. My sister Hannah slowly stepped forward, a meaningful smile on her face, and said, "Christina, I'm pregnant." "What? You are pregnant?" "Yes, with Michael's child." There was a triumphant look in Hannah's eyes. I heard something crumble inside my mind. This house belongs to Michael. So Christina, you should leave right away. Upon hearing Hannah's words, I took a deep breath. Anger surged within me, but more importantly, I had to think clearly. They clearly expected me to be upset and lose my composure. But I wouldn't let things go their way. "I see." I slowly placed my wine glass on the table and faced them. "This house is in my name. So, shouldn't you two be the ones to leave?" My sister Hannah's face changed color instantly. Her previous confident smile vanished and her mouth twitched. "Christina, what are you talking about? It's simple. This house is mine. Michael could live here because I allowed it. But if you're going to say such things, there's no need for that anymore." My sister Hannah glanced at my husband Michael for a moment, but he also looked perplexed. Apparently, both of them thought I would agree to the divorce without any fuss. "You don't own anything anymore." My sister Hannah persisted. "It's obvious you'll struggle financially without Michael. You have no options. If you think so, that's naive." I quietly smiled. "I have my own job, and I'm not as destitute as you think. Rather, it seems like you two might end up having more problems." My sister Hannah's face turned pale. My husband Michael, sensing my calm demeanor, frowned, now visibly worried. "Christina, what are you trying to say?" My husband Michael said in a low voice. "It's simple. I'm just saying that I'm not as powerless as you think." I stood up and slowly left the room. As soon as I entered another room, I called my mother. "Mom, there's something I need to tell you." I started speaking, my voice trembling over the phone. My mother's response was drawn out, but I quickly continued. Mom, Hannah and Michael were having an affair, and Hannah is pregnant. I struggled with my words, but it was a major issue I had to convey. After a moment of silence, my mother finally spoke. That's really terrible. What are you going to do now? I thought I detected surprise and concern in my mother's voice, but there was a calmness there too. I don't know what to do, but I can't understand how this happened. I desperately held back tears welling up inside me. What should we do as a family? After a moment of silence, my mother's reply was cold. Why don't you just get a divorce? That seems the quickest solution. Her words were completely different from the help I was seeking. Her voice seemed emotionally detached, and I felt her words pierce me. Divorce? I was startled, and my voice shook. Mom, why would you say something so cold? But if Hannah is pregnant, isn't divorce the only option? My mother stated matter-of-factly, seemingly indifferent to my reaction. It was as if she prioritized a practical solution over my feelings and our family bonds. In that moment, I felt completely betrayed by the expectation that my mother would support me, and a huge void formed in my heart. The coldness was as unbearable as my husband's betrayal for me, who had believed in the bonds of our family. The next day, I accidentally learned a secret about my husband Michael. Late at night, I saw him on the phone in his study and stopped, curious. The door was slightly open, and a low voice leaked out. As I casually listened, I heard unexpected words. I told Christina about the divorce like you said, Mother. But it doesn't seem like she'll accept it easily. What should I do? Mother, he said. I felt my whole body freeze. My husband Michael was talking to my mother. I couldn't believe what I was hearing, but I decided to listen more intently. But my husband Michael was saying something in response, and then I was shocked by the next words he said. I was able to stay at home full-time because of your support. I tried to repay that kindness. At that moment, I was taken aback. He must have believed all this time that he was receiving support from my parents. However, in reality, it was undoubtedly my earnings that supported our household. I remembered how desperately I had worked. It was me who supported my husband Michael's dreams and his lifestyle. On another day, I heard a shocking story from a friend. My husband Michael and I share many mutual friends, and one of them told me that Michael had been saying, Christina's family is wealthy, so even if I remarry Hannah, I can maintain the same affluent lifestyle. I was stunned by this revelation. A chain of betrayals and misunderstandings. I stood frozen, feeling everything crumbling around me. The divorce was my mother's strategy, and my husband Michael, misunderstanding that he had support from my parents, followed her lead and brought up divorce. My mind was made up. There was no need to endure this life any longer. I took a deep breath, calming my heart. Then, I told myself, let go of everything and be free. There was no hesitation in my heart. There was no longer any reason to continue my marriage with my husband Michael. That weekend, I called Michael and my sister Hannah to the living room. They exchanged awkward glances but also seemed somewhat defiant. I'm thinking of divorcing Michael, but I will be asking for compensation, so be prepared, I said calmly. My sister Hannah immediately reacted. That's terrible. Just what I snapped coldly. What do you mean just after having an affair with my husband? My sister Hannah shut her mouth. Michael sighed irritably and said, There's no need to pay compensation. Hannah and I love each other. I scoffed. Love each other? Haha, do as you please, but you'll pay the price. Also, this house is mine. Leave immediately. Michael's face contorted. Don't joke. Where are we supposed to go? I don't care. You two are in love, right? Then you can manage anywhere. My sister Hannah anxiously grabbed Michael's arm. Michael. Michael glared at me, but he seemed to understand that he had no legal ground. After a moment of silence, he stood up with a click of his tongue. That's fine. We'll leave. My sister Hannah, still wanting to resist, said tearfully Christina. Please? Please. I looked down at her coldly. After destroying my family, what are you asking for now? My sister Hannah had nothing to say and looked down. Eventually, the two reluctantly packed their bags and left the house. They had nowhere to go and ended up temporarily staying at a friend's house of Michael. But I didn't care anymore. I had finally driven them out of my life. As I proceeded with the divorce, my mother called me. She sounded somewhat cheerful and detached as usual. Christina, I heard you're getting a divorce. That's good, she said too casually. I was stunned by her flippant tone. She seemed to accept it as the natural course of events, showing no concern for my feelings. A mix of anger and sadness welled up in me, but I continued the conversation calmly. Since my sister Hannah and ex-husband had an affair, I intend to claim compensation, I said. My mother sounded a bit surprised and then chuckled lightly. Michael is an actor, right? He has a decent income, so claiming compensation will easily solve things. You don't need to take money unnecessarily. If Hannah and the baby can live happily, that's enough. At that moment, I realized my mother did not understand Michael's actual financial situation at all. Being an actor didn't necessarily mean having wealth. Besides, the issue was not about money but about the responsibility for the betrayal by my husband and sister. My mother's attitude of, if there's money, there's no problem, left me speechless. Mom, are you serious? Her words seemed to imply that my feelings didn't matter. Prioritizing my sister's future stability and looking forward to the birth of her grandchild was my mother's true sentiment. I can't simply accept this. This isn't just a divorce. I've been betrayed, I said. But my mother's attitude didn't change. I sighed deeply and moved the phone away from my ear. My mother was still saying something, but I couldn't bring myself to listen any longer. I was no longer in doubt. With the anger of being betrayed by my husband and the sadness of having no allies in my family, I resolved to exact thorough revenge. A few weeks later, I received an unexpected call from my friend Jocelyn. She wanted to meet and talk, so we arranged to meet at a cafe. As I sipped my coffee, I intently waited for Jocelyn to speak. She was the wife of a friend of Michael's, where he and my sister Hannah were currently staying, and she had known me for some time. Placing her coffee cup down gently, Jocelyn began to speak with a serious look. Christina, I'm going to tell you the truth about Michael and Hannah. Seeing me slightly furrow my brow, Jocelyn chose her words carefully. I hesitated about whether to tell you, but I think it's better if you know after taking a deep breath, she quietly began. At first, I had no suspicions. Michael and Hannah started staying at our place, and everything seemed normal for a while. But little by little, I began to feel something was off. Off? I looked into Jocelyn's eyes. It's Hannah's behavior. She was drinking wine calmly and repeatedly. At first, I thought it might just be a one-off, but a pregnant woman wouldn't do that, right? Also, there were no signs she was going for any prenatal checkups. I clenched my fist. And then, Jocelyn continued with a worried look. One evening, my husband and I discussed it and decided to ask Michael directly, is Hannah really pregnant then? Michael, he looked really flustered for a moment. But after that, as he thought back on Hannah's actions, he started to notice several inconsistencies. Jocelyn gripped her coffee cup tightly and continued quietly. So, during dinner one evening, Michael directly asked Hannah, I'll come with you to your next checkup then. She started dodging his eyes, trying to evade the question. Evade? Yes. When was it? I need to check my schedule, she kept saying, not really answering. And when Michael pressed, you are really pregnant, right? Hannah suddenly got angry. Didn't I tell you I am? As if she was trying to deceive him. Jocelyn's voice trembled slightly. But by then, Michael had realized. So he forced her to go to the hospital. I remained silent, staring into my cup of coffee. Anger and sadness swirled in my head. And the result? Jocelyn shook her head slightly. Ultimately, Hannah wasn't pregnant at all, she said with a sigh. I quietly waited for her to continue. They've been arguing ever since they came back from the hospital. They were so heated that they didn't even notice I was there. Jocelyn frowned, as if recalling the atmosphere of that moment. Enough already, Hannah shouted. I'd never seen her like that before. It was as if she was convincing herself all I wanted was to get married. Michael, I just wanted to marry you. I listened in silence, feeling a slow burn of rage building inside me. Michael just stared at her in disbelief. Why would you lie about being pregnant when he asked that? His voice was trembling. And what did Hannah say? Jocelyn lowered her eyes and continued quietly. My sister and Michael couldn't have children, right? She said, as if it was a matter of fact. When Michael pressed her, so what she replied, so, I thought if I said I was pregnant, Michael would easily leave my sister. I clenched my hand. That's despicable. Yes, it is. But at that moment, Hannah completely lost her composure. But, in the end, everything backfired, didn't it? She muttered with a vacant look. Jocelyn shook her head bitterly. Hearing that, Michael completely lost it. It's your fault. I'm being sued for compensation, and I've lost my home because of you, he yelled, hitting the living room wall hard. Michael did. I'd never seen him like that before. He always acted so composed, but he couldn't hold back his emotions anymore. It's all because of your lies. You pay for it. Isn't your family wealthy anyway? He confronted her. I smirked ironically. Typical of Michael. In the end, it's all about money. I can't believe it. Jocelyn looked sad. Yes. But then Hannah suddenly went quiet. So, you wanted to marry me just for the money, she said with a cold look. Jocelyn traced her coffee cup with her finger as she continued. Michael twisted his face in irritation. Yes, I decided to marry you because your family was wealthy. I wanted a stable life. What's wrong with that? He retorted. That is disgusting, I said dismissively. Hannah just chuckled. So, all those I love yous were lies? She asked. But Michael bluntly replied, that's just words. Look at the reality then. Hannah suddenly laughed, breathing out a small sigh, truly despicable. But let me tell you something. My family doesn't have any money. Jocelyn continued her story in a matter-of-fact tone. The color drained from Michael's face. Hannah coldly laughed. If you were after money, it was wrong from the start. I almost burst out laughing. In the end, they both got what they deserved, haha. Exactly. Their relationship is completely broken now. Hannah stayed with us, but we've reached our limit, and I finally told her, you need to leave. Jocelyn shrugged with a wry smile. So, they might be wandering the streets by now. I sipped my cold coffee and smiled quietly. Serves them right, haha. Jocelyn seemed a bit taken aback but soon sighed. Christina, what are you going to do? I slowly set down my cup and looked straight into Jocelyn's eyes. It's decided. My voice filled with anger and determination. Jocelyn, thank you for telling me. Jocelyn looked at me anxiously but said nothing. I was somewhat curious about how my sister Hannah was getting by after being thrown out of the house, but it was all her responsibility, and it no longer had anything to do with me. She must be seeking help from our parents. Sure enough, the next day, I received a call from them. Christina, we've heard from Hannah. We understand why you can't forgive your sister, but you two are siblings. Can't you reconcile somehow? My father pleaded, but I didn't answer right away. Then my mother took the phone. Christina, we're family. Let's forget the past and start over. Hannah is remorseful, she said, her voice desperate, but it resonated hollowly with me. Mom, when I was suffering, you didn't protect me. And now you say we're family, so just forget the past. Please, Christina. Please. It's too late, Mom. I rejected my parents' plea. Every time I recalled how hurt and alone I had been, their words felt empty. When I was betrayed, my parents never supported me even once. Now, to hear them say convenient things was more than I could accept. Forgiving not only my sister but also my parents' betrayal was not something I could easily do. I learned from relatives that my sister Hannah had eventually returned to our parents' house. According to them, my parents had reluctantly accepted her. They had even told their friends and relatives about the expected grandchild. Now that everyone knew the truth that it had all been a lie, my sister Hannah faced criticism from all sides. My mother complained that my sister Hannah had embarrassed them terribly, and at family gatherings, my parents felt uncomfortable. Meanwhile, I finalized my divorce and sold the house where I had lived for many years. Deciding to start a new life, I prioritized taking care of myself and moving beyond the past pains. By then, Michael, too, had lost everything. Jobless, chased by compensation payments, and nearly broke, Michael and my sister Hannah were both left in a desolate loneliness of their own making. Quietly smiling, I murmured, "That's the path you chose." Having cut ties with the past, I now looked forward to a future filled with hope and love.